This video is part of the Wealth with Ro journey, and specifically section 4 of the Wealth with Ro cohort, where we moved and shifted from building wealth to protecting it. Hello, my name is Rashonda Ro Coleman. If you were part of the cohort, this is the section that you voted to have recorded, so you can go back and move through it at your own pace. And if you're new here, I want you to hear this clearly from the start. This is not about fear. This is not about preparing for the worst. This is about clarity, stewardship, and intentionality. Because wealth without protection is extremely fragile, and because legacy without structure is just hope. So don't rush. You don't need to do everything today. You just need to understand what matters and why. So let's walk through this together. Now that you're building wealth, you also have to protect it. A plan that isn't protected isn't a plan, it's hope. Estate planning answers one simple question. If something happens to me, will my money move with clarity or with confusion? Let's break this down simply. First, you're going to start with the basics, and that's wills and trusts. A will distributes your assets, a trust protects them. So if you say, hey, Ro, what's the will versus what's the trust? So let me break this down for you. Your will. Your will is your voice when you're no longer here. It outlines what happens to your assets, your children, your property, everything. Not having one forces the state to make decisions that you could have made with clarity. So you want to set things up clearly now to avoid probate later, because probate is expensive, slow, and stressful for the people you love. Simple fixes make a huge difference. You can add your spouse or partner to bank accounts, or you can simply add or tithe or PI, which is a transfer on death or a payable on death designation to accounts. A revocable living trust keeps you in control while you're alive. You can adjust this as life changes, new properties, new priorities, new spouses, new seasons. It helps avoid probate and adds a layer of organization and protection. An irrevocable trust is different. Once it's set, it generally can't be changed. It's used for deeper asset protection and long-term planning, but it requires more certainty upfront. For most people, an irrevocable trust doesn't become a tax-driven necessity until your estate is in the 13 to 14 million range per person. And even then, timing and future law changes will definitely matter. So this isn't choosing one today. It's about knowing the difference so you don't delay because you feel overwhelmed. Things may change over time. You may decide you want someone else to watch your kids, someone else to overlook your finances. This is how you avoid probate delays, confusion, and family conflict. Okay? Next is at the power of attorney. If something happens to you, who makes that financial decision? Who makes your medical decision? This document answers those things clearly. Again, this is about stewardship, leaving clarity, not chaos. And finally, you have your beneficiary designations. These will override your will, retirement accounts, insurance policies, HSAs. If they aren't updated, your wealth will not flow where you think it will. I want you to think about this and get this in your mind, that legacy isn't just about money. It's about direction. You have to prepare yourself for the hard questions. Estate planning, I've done it, okay? Estate planning forces you to think about disability, incapacity, guardianship, long-term decisions. It's emotional, but peace always requires preparation. And again, if you're doing a revocable trust, you can change it. So you're not held to it for your next decades of life and living. So some recommended resources is you can get the book Entrusted. It's a book about trust. It's very plain language, practical guidance. There's another one called I'm Dead, Now What? It's a planner that helps you organize everything your family will need. And you want to start where you are and let your plan grow as God grows your wealth. And I'll include a link to both of those books that I mentioned as well. Now let's talk about protection for business owners and investors. If you're building a business, even a small one, you need to understand this language. Key person insurance protects a business if a critical person passes away. It helps cover revenue loss, replacement costs, and operational continuity. So basically, it covers costs associated with finding and training a replacement. Then you want to have something called buy-sell insurance. Depending, because buy-sell insurance funds ownership transfers between partners. So if you have a partner, you want to have buy-sell insurance because it prevents a forced sale, family conflict, and financial strain during an already difficult moment. Again, reminder, these tools aren't about fear. They're about responsible leadership. So some of the things that you can do is within your operating agreement, you can make sure that you have something that says percent of ownership and then have a what if clause. Basically, God forbid something happens. For example, if one partner passes away, the other two partners can buy that partner out, or it can state that the spouse can become a co-owner. You can also buy insurance on your partner so that you can use the insurance to buy out the person or their spouse or next of kin or whoever got their assets when they passed away. And most importantly, you can decide in your operating agreement that the insurance is paid through the profit and loss of the company. Both provide liquidity, both provide momentum, and both, most importantly, preserves the wealth that you worked so hard to build. This isn't about assuming the worst. You're going to hear me say this over and over because sometimes people delay on handling these items. It's not about assuming the worst. It's about being prepared because you want to make sure that your vision does survive and it doesn't die with you. One of my favorite sayings and quotes is dealing with the Les Brown quote about dreams and things dying when you pass away. So let's move on. I want to reframe something else that's very important before we close. Tax incentives. You hear a lot about taxes. Tax incentives are not loopholes, they're assignments. The government can't house people, feed people, or innovate fast enough. So they partner with private enterprise and reward whoever fulfills that assignment. So you get tax benefits when you contribute to society in a way the government values. This is why investors, business owners, and innovators have different tax outcomes. They are doing what the system is designed to incentivize. That's what we're doing. We're being very intentional on using the benefits that the government gives us from a tax incentive standpoint. So one of the things to keep in mind is that local and federal governments leverage private enterprise to accomplish a lot of shared goals. Again, housing, development, innovation. So when you align your activity with those goals, incentives will follow. This is why strategy matters and why education changes outcomes. This is one of my favorite books, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. And I'll include the link again in the description. And it's one of my favorite books because it explains the different categories of how the government incentivizes us and why. It basically shares what the government pulls out. I would say, depending on your reading flow and how you like to read, you may want to pick just one area in the book, read through that, and then go from there. Pick the one that resonates with you. Of course, real estate for me was one of the big ones, so I read through all the real estate ones. So overall, wealth is being built by understanding the rules and then playing the game on purpose. As you've listened to in this section, you may be thinking, I don't have all of this in one place yet. Good. That just means you're being honest. Again, this is not a checklist to complete in one weekend. It's a framework for you to grow into. Begin where you are in clarity first. Then you continue to build intentionally. So I just have to give you some important reminders because I wouldn't be Ro if I didn't. Open your mail. I have a testimony about that, okay? Open your mail. Avoidance costs money. Collections don't show up because people are broke. They show up because people didn't open the envelope. Limit your new credit. If you already have credit cards, don't open new ones. You're not building, you're distracting yourself when you do that. New inquiries plus new lines, it can be unnecessary friction when you're trying to build momentum. Pay on time. The cheapest way to raise your credit score is to pay everything on time, period. Late payments hit harder than you think, so protect your credit score like it's an asset. Monitor your credit. Check your reports. Errors happen every day and they cost people thousands. Fraud doesn't ask for permission, but you can catch it early. Got a testimony about that too. Strategic credit card management. This is something that I consider a sauce. It's very quick, tactical, and life-changing. So overall, you want to make sure that you're paying early. Don't wait for your due date. Pay 2 days early so the bank reports the right balance. You want to reduce your balance. So if you have a high balance, you may not be able to pay everything down to zero right away. So your first goal is you want to get everything under 50% utilization. That's your first milestone. This gets you out of the danger zone. And then your second is to continue to reduce balances. So stage 2 would be under 30%. This is where your credit score starts to breathe again. And then finally, stage 3, under 10%. This is the sweet spot. Under 10% is where the algorithm of the credit score shows you some real love. Again, none of this is glamorous, but all of it is powerful. Small disciplines create big freedom. Screenshot this right here, save it. Don't try to fix everything tonight, today, this weekend, this week, this month. Build your system one move at a time. And of course, you always want to look at your interest rate. So consider focusing on the high interest rate stuff and paying those off and then going from that standpoint. In the Wealth with Row class, I actually have a debt calculator that I built that helps you pay off your debt based off of what your natural personality is. I am a big believer that everybody is not wired the same, so everybody's not going to handle wealth the same. So it's better for you to actually accomplish your goal if you do things that's just based on you and naturally how you work. So, all right, wealth builders, take a breath. Take a breath. If you're thinking, I want help figuring out my next right spot, this is where I can support you. I offer a complimentary Wealth with Row dream strategy session. I like to call it Ask Row. This is not a sales call. It's not a deep dive into the weeds. It's really actually a clarifying conversation. We'll talk about your vision, your priorities, what matters most to you in this season, because clarity comes before strategy. Sometimes there is greatness inside of you, and you just need a partner to help you see it and see what that path forward is. If that's you, you'll find a link in the description. Most importantly, I want you to always be willing to do what most people won't so you can live a life that most people can't. I'll leave you with this. Legacy isn't just about money. It's about stewardship. It's about clarity. Begin where you are and let your plan grow with intention, discipline, and faith. You're equipped for the season. Now go build. Have a great one. Don't forget to live healthy.